On April 7, 2026, the United States and Iran were exactly 90 minutes away from a conflict that would have devastated an entire civilization. This chart shows the scale of the first 50 days. More than 4,000 people had been killed, concentrated largely in Iran and Lebanon, alongside dozens of American and Israeli soldiers. The war entered a new phase when American and Israeli forces began striking Iran's active nuclear infrastructure, including direct hits on the Natanz facility. But the center of the escalation was the Bushehr nuclear power plant. 4 bombs were dropped in the immediate vicinity of this facility, which sits right on the coast and houses tons of radioactive material. If a single strike had hit the reactors, radioactive material would have leaked into the sea. The water supply for the entire Gulf region would have been contaminated, causing a disaster that would last for generations. Throughout the conflict, the American administration maintained that they held total air dominance over Iranian territory. On April 3rd, that claim was tested. Iran successfully shot down an American F-15E Strike Eagle fighter jet. 1 airman was left hiding behind enemy lines. Despite ejection injuries, he hiked across mountainous terrain to a height of 7,000 feet, eventually sending a 3-word radio message: "God is good." To recover him, the CIA launched a deception campaign to convince Iran the crew was already safe. This bought time for hundreds of Delta Force and Navy SEAL Team 6 members to enter the country for a high-risk rescue. While the rescue was successful, it came at a high cost to American hardware. During the operation, an A-10 Warthog crashed, and 2 Blackhawks were hit. The military also had to destroy 2 of its own transport planes on the ground to keep them out of Iranian hands. The U.S. issued 4 separate deadlines demanding Iran reopen the Strait of Hormuz, a critical global shipping lane. Iran ignored all of them. By April 7th, the rhetoric shifted. The U.S. president posted a social media message threatening that if the strait didn't open, the entire Iranian civilization would be destroyed and would never come back. Global leaders reacted with alarm. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned that intentionally targeting civilian infrastructure was a violation of international law. Violence preceded the deadline. American forces launched a massive strike on Karg Island, the facility responsible for 90% of Iran's oil exports. Embassies across the Middle East began urgent evacuations. With 90 minutes left on the countdown, the global community was waiting for an escalation that appeared inevitable. At the last moment, a 2-week ceasefire was announced. It had been brokered through a secret channel by Pakistan's Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif. The peace didn't last a day. Within hours, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu launched a massive campaign of more than 100 strikes in Lebanon, killing over 300 people in a single afternoon. The U.S. delegation, represented by J.D. Vance, stated that Lebanon was never officially part of the truce agreement between the U.S. and Iran. Iran was left with a choice: watch its allies be destroyed while honoring the ceasefire, or restart a direct war with the United States. While the diplomats in Washington and Tehran had paused their direct conflict, the military campaign simply continued through the geographic loopholes left in the agreement. Peace talks in Islamabad collapsed after 21 hours. The 2 sides could not agree on nuclear power. The U.S. demanded a total shutdown, while Iran refused to give up its right to uranium enrichment. The U.S. Navy established a secondary blockade, choking off Iranian ports to deter Chinese ships. Iran responded by erratically opening the strait, then firing on ships and closing it. This caused oil prices to drop 10% before instantly surging. Controlling this single 21-mile strip of water allows regional powers to hold the daily stability of the global economy hostage to their military demands. Neutral nations struggle to protect their own trade interests. Indian Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar was left repeatedly asking the U.S. for waivers just to continue buying oil on India's own terms. On April 18th, the conflict hit home for India. Iranian gunboats fired upon 2 Indian-flagged supertankers carrying Iraqi oil, forcing them to turn back from the strait. Only months ago, India and Iran were joint investors in the Chabahar port, seen here, a project meant to secure their shared economic future. Now those same partners were firing on each other's tankers. The fragility of the current situation is about to be tested again. The 2-week ceasefire is set to expire on April 22nd. Without a permanent deal, the pause in hostilities will end. Unless a solution is reached, the war is set to resume, bringing the threat of a global economic collapse back with it.